Classmates, today we begin to study comparative advantage theory, or the Ricardian model. We will focus on the two key points: a one-factor economy and the trade in a one-factor world. The theory of comparative advantage has been a cornerstone of international trade theory for almost 200 years, which was put forward by David Ricardo. David Ricardo was the leading British economist of the early 1800s. He helped develop the series of classical economics that emphasized economic freedom through free trade and competition. Suppose country whom produces only two goods, wine and cheese. Like Adam Smith, it is assumed that the labor is the only input of the production in the Ricardian model. The technology of country whom can be summarized by labor productivity in each sector, which is expressed in terms of unit labor requirement. The unit requirement means the number of hours of labor required to produce a pound of cheese or a gallon of wine. Note, the unit of labor requirement is the inverse of productivity. The higher the unit labor requirement, the lower the productivity. We define ALC and the ALW as the unit labor requirements in wine and cheese production, respectively. L represents the total labor supply, or total resources of production. Because resources are limited, there are limits on what the country can produce. For the country, there exist trade-offs. To produce more cheese, the economy must sacrifice some production of wine. These trade-offs could be illustrated graphically by a production possibility frontier, simply PPF, because the economy total labor is L. The limits on production are defined by the inequality ALC QC. ALW QW is less than L, where QC and the QW are the economy production of cheese and wine, respectively. Since labor is the only input of the production, the PPF is a straight line, and the absolute value of the slope of the PPF equals the opportunity cost of cheese in terms of wine, which is ALC over ALW. To determine what the economy will actually produce, we needed to know the relative price of the economy's two goods. That is, the price of one good in terms of the other. In a competitive economy, supply decisions are determined by the attempts of individuals to maximize their earnings. Since labor is the only factor of production, and the label can move freely between the sectors. The supply of cheese and the wine will be determined by the movement of label to whichever sector pay the higher wage. Let PC and the PW be the prices of cheese and wine, respectively. In a competitive market, the profit is zero. So the hourly wage in the sector of cheese will equal the value of what a worker can produce in an hour. A worker can produce 1 over ALC in an hour. So the value of what a worker can produce is PC over ALC. In the wine sector, the value of what the worker can produce is PW over ALW. If PC over PW exceeds ALC over ALW, wages in the cheese sector will be higher. If PC over PW is less than ALC over ALW, wages in the wine sector will be higher. As a national people, each worker will want to work in whichever sector offers the higher wage. The economy will specialize in the production of wine if PC over PW is less than ALC over ALW. On the contrary, it will specialize in the production of cheese if PC over PW exceeds ALC over ALW. When PC over PW equals ALC over ALW, the economy will produce both goods. Remember, ALC over ALW also represents the opportunity cost of cheese in terms of wine. Therefore, we can derive an important proposition about the relationship between prices and the production. The economy will specialize in the production of cheese if the relative price of cheese exceeds its opportunity cost in terms of wine. It will specialize in the production of wine if the relative price of cheese is less than its opportunity cost in terms of wine. However, in the absence of international trade, whom would have to produce both goods for itself, which means PC over PW equals ALC over PALW. So in the absence of international trade, the relative price of goods are equal to the relative unit labor requirements or opportunity costs. The second issue, trade in a one-factor economy or trade in the Ricardian model. Suppose there is another country besides whom, which we call foreign. Foreign's labor force is denoted by AL star. Unit labor requirements in wine and the cheese are denoted by ALW star and ALC star, respectively. In general, whom could be less productive than foreign in wine, but more productive in cheese, or vice versa? We just assume that ALC over ALW is less than ALC star over ALW star, or equivalently that ALC over ALC star is less than ALW over ALW star. In words, we are assuming the relative unit label requirement of cheese in home is lower than that in foreign. And recall ALC over ALW also represents the opportunity cost of cheese in terms of wine. While a country has a competitive advantage in producing a good, if the opportunity cost of producing that good in terms of another good is lower in that country than it is in the other countries. So, in fact, our assumption amounts to saying that home has a competitive advantage in cheese. 2 points should be mentioned. First, the condition which home has a competitive advantage in cheese involves 4 unit label requirements. But if label ALC is less than ALC star, it only means home has an absolute advantage in cheese, not a competitive advantage. Second, because the absolute slope of a production possibility frontier equals the opportunity cost ALC over ALW is less than ALC star over ALW star. Also means the home's frontier is flatter than foreign's. Look at figure 2. What prices will induce the international trade occur? We needed to determine the relative price after trade. First, we needed to draw world relative supply curve indicated by RS and the relative demand curve indicated by RD, which is general equilibrium analysis. RS and RD means the number of pounds of cheese supplied or demanded divided by the number of gallons of wine supplied or demanded. Let's look at the figure 3 in order to understand it better. If the world relative price PC over PW drops below ALC over ALW, there would be no supply of cheese. Recall, whenever PC over PW is less than ALC over ALW, it means wage in cheese sector is lower than in wine. Home will specialize in wine. Similarly, foreign will specialize in wine whenever PC over PW is less than ALC star over ALW star. We have made an assumption that ALC over ALW is less than ALC star over ALW star. So at relative prices of cheese below ALC over ALW, there would be no world cheese of production. When the world relative price PC over PW is exactly ALC over ALW, it means that wage in cheese sector equal that in wine sector in home. So home will produce both goods. It will be willing to supply any relative amount of the two goods, producing a flat section to supply curve. When the world relative price PC over PW is above ALC over ALW, whom will specialize in the production of cheese, and the output of the cheese is L over ALC. As long as PC over PW is less than ALC star over ALW star. However, Folin will continue to specialize in producing wine. The output of wine is L star over ALW star. So for any relative price of cheese between ALC over ALW and ALC star over ALW star, the relative supply of cheese is L over ALC over L star over ALW star at PC over PW equals ALC star over ALW star. Foreign workers are indifferent between producing cheese and wine. Thus, we again have a flat section of supply curve. Finally, for PC over PW exceeds ALC star over ALW, both whom and Folin will specialize in cheese production. There will be no wine production, so that the relative supply of cheese will become infinite. We can find the funny shape of the relative supply curve. It is a step with a flat section linked by a vertical section. The relative demand curve is downward, which reflects substitute effect. As the relative price of cheese rises, consumers tend to purchase less cheese and more wine, so the relative demand for cheese falls. The equilibrium relative price of cheese is determined by the intersection of relative supply and the relative demand curves. If we leave aside the possibility that one of the countries does not completely specialize, we will find that it should be between the two countries' pre-trade prices. The trade will result convergence in relative price. The effect of this convergence in relative price is that each country specializes in the production of that good, in which it has lower unit labor requirement. The rise in the relative price of cheese in whom will need whom to specialize in cheese, enlarge its production to point F, while the fall in the relative price of cheese in foreign will lead foreign to specialize in wine, enlarge its production to point F star. Please look at figure 4. How about the gains from trade? We can think of trade as an indirect method of production. Consider two alternative ways of using an hour of labor. On one side, whom could use the hour directly produce 1 over ALW gallons of wine. Alternatively, whom could use the hour to produce 1 over ALC pounds of cheese. This cheese then be traded for wine, with each pound trading for PCO PW gallons. So the original hour of labor yields 1 over ALC PCO PW gallons of wine. This will be more wine than the hour could have produced directly, as long as this inequality holds. But we have no international equilibrium if neither country produces both goods. We must have PC over PW exceeds ALC over ALW. This shows that who can produce wine more efficiently by making cheese and trading it than by producing wine directly for itself. Similarly, foreign can produce cheese more efficiently by making wine and trading it. Both countries gain. That's all for this lecture. Thanks for joining. See you next time.